Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here today. Welcome to Chief Collins. Thank you for Chief Collins for being able to be here as well. Behind me, you can see I've got two members of our senior management team, City Manager Norm Gale and our Treasurer Linda Evans, in charge of our Finance Department, General Manager. They will both be available to help with any questions that you may have in terms of the detail of today's announcement once we're concluded. So again, thank you all for being here. I want to begin by just a bit of the backdrop for what we're talking about today. I think you're all aware of the situation that most municipalities have found themselves in since at least March, as COVID-19 began to make its impact known on cities right across the province, right across the country, and what it meant for our revenue lines and our expense lines, and some very difficult decisions that corporations right across the province have been faced with having to make. Yesterday I received two letters from the province of Ontario, one from the Minister of Transportation. The second letter was from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And the announcement that we're making today will be about funding assistance for municipalities as a result of that agreement. You will know that on July 27th there was a public announcement where we then knew that we would for certain be receiving funding assistance. That's fully 2 weeks ago now. The federal government and the provinces had come together, certainly Ontario, and the federal government had come together on a joint funding announcement. I can't speak to the other provinces, but here in Ontario, there had been an agreement reached between the feds and the province on $4 billion of assistance that would flow to municipalities in the province of Ontario. $2 billion of that was going to be for transit-related operations, and $2 billion of that was going to be for funding pressures related to the operating pressures that financially that municipalities were feeling right across the province. Before I get to the announcement, I also want to thank a lot of the provincial organizations that we have been part of that were doing a lot of work over the past number of months in terms of lobbying at the federal level and at the provincial level for this municipal assistance. Both the city manager and I have been on a number of phone calls over the past 3-5 months, I don't even remember how long, with a number of different organizations, and it's important to flag them for you and thank them for their efforts. And our participation was just a small part of the work that was going on by all municipal officials and leaders publicly elected right across the province. First, I'll thank LUMCO. LUMCO was known as the Large Urban Mayors Caucus of Ontario, recently changed their name to the Ontario Big City Mayors, to MARCO, the municipal, I always forget MARCO, Associate Regional Chairs of Ontario, who are a big organization as well, AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and as well FCM, the Federation of Municipalities right across the country. So there's been significant work that's done through those organizations with the federal and provincial governments to help to get us to where we are today. On July 27th, I'm going to repeat this part again. You will know that we did receive confirmation 2 weeks ago that we would be receiving some provincial assistance. Unfortunately, at that time, we did not know how much, only that for certain we would be receiving money. Again, $2 billion for transit and $2 billion for operating pressures. The first letter and announcement that I'll refer to is on the transportation stream. As mentioned, $2 billion of that is for $2 billion of the $4 billion is for transportation-related pressures. There are only about 110 municipalities in Ontario that operate public transit systems, so we felt pretty good that we were going to receive a significant announcement when it came to that. As you know, this was our most significant pressure on the revenue side on the transit piece. That was representing $400,000 to $500,000 a month in terms of lost revenues for the City of Thunder Bay, owing primarily to significantly reduced ridership numbers and the decision by the city to keep our operators safe and to allow for free ridership for those that were on to keep our operators safe. The transit money is going to be rolled out in two phases. The first phase will be $666 million out of the $2 billion. That will cover costs up to September 30th of 2020. The second phase will be 1.34 billion remaining, and that will go on for municipalities that can demonstrate a need up until the end of March 2021. So that's a significant piece to remember for the obvious reasons. So today on the transit stream, I am very excited and pleased to announce that the City of Thunder Bay will be receiving $3,184,000 related to our transit operating pressures to the end of September 2020. As I mentioned, there's an opportunity for more assistance on the transit stream for us in the months ahead up to the end of March 2021. A significant piece, $3.1 million and change. The second letter was from the Minister of Housing, again on behalf of the joint agreement between the federal government and the provincial government. This was the other $2 billion of the $4 billion that was reached in agreement with the federal and the provincial governments. This money will also be rolled out in two phases. The first phase will be $1.39 billion of the $2 billion. That will be 50%. All cities will receive that money that's being announced today. The remaining 50% will be for cities that can demonstrate a required need for more money on a go-forward basis. So on that part, I'm pleased to announce that the City of Thunder Bay from the Ministry of Municipal Housing for operating pressures, remembering that municipalities legally cannot run an operating deficit. On this piece, we will be receiving $6,191,300. That money allocated on a per household basis to help us deal with our operating cost pressures. So the total of the two announcements today through transportation and through housing, the Ministry of Housing, represent just south of $9.4 million for the City of Thunder Bay. Obviously an incredibly significant day as our administrative team is working on their preparation for the 2021 budget, and as we will receive an updated financial projection on our year-end operating deficit just in less than 2 weeks on August 24th. So that concludes my formal remarks for today. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have, and I'll ask City Manager Norm Gale and Linda Evans as well. They're here to backstop any of the detail that I cannot provide for you. So we'll open it up for questions from here.
Yeah, so Bill, obviously with the last update that we had got, the city was facing a $7 million shortfall because of COVID-19. Is the math as simple now as saying that there's a $2.4 million surplus, or is it not that simple?
No, I don't think it's that simple, Ryan, but I take your point. The projection we'll receive on August 24th will be an updated projection. In the letter that administration replying that submitted to council on August 10th, of course, there's additional costs that we expect to see depending on decisions we make related to reopenings that we may make. And as well, we have up until, on the transit side, March of 2021 to reevaluate what those costs may be, as well as an updated projection on the other half. So that was a point in time projection by the city, and we'll see where we end up.
So do you think that this is enough then, or do you think that the city could have benefited from more?
Well, listen, we're gratified obviously by the announcement that's here today. I was very clear that we expected that we would receive assistance through the calls that I had been part of for months. We were quite certain we were going to receive some money. We received certainty of that on July 27th. We didn't know what the numbers are. Today we know what the numbers are. And so this is a point in time announcement. There will be time for us to reflect on it. There will be forms and submissions required through the finance department to the relevant ministries to justify any further demands or need that we may have. And so I'm not going to say it's enough or it's not enough. We're thankful for what we received today, and there will still be more work to do, I would say, over the course of the next 6 to 8 months.
This is for obviously transit. When this came across, did money for the police come up? I know you've been lobbying hard to get money for police.
This is, completely unrelated to anything to do with police, Jeff. Yeah.
With one of the things I was doing yesterday, I was downtown in this side of the city. The number of businesses that are still not open, they're going to be struggling a lot. Is the city looking to do anything to help the small business sector?
This is unrelated to the small business sector. Today we're here happy to talk about the transit piece that we're announcing today and the housing piece, $9.1 billion. Obviously the decisions related to openings of private sector businesses are more under the scope and the authority of the provincial government in terms of the rules governing their potential reopenings. Most of those decisions are theirs to make as individual operators.
In a follow-up, there's been some changes with transit with this funding. Will there be some expansion of service with transit, for example, the East End or the bus out to Port William First Nation?
You know, I think it's a very fair question, James. And so these are the decisions that internally we're going to have to make. I mean, there is still, let me answer it this way. You may have heard me say in council chambers over the last several months that we need to demonstrate as a council and as an administrative team that we are willing to make some of the difficult decisions, because at some point the province, as we're lobbying on one hand for more assistance, we needed to be seen as being willing to make some of the difficult decisions, like reduced transit levels, for example, to show that where there's this reduced ridership, how can you justify maintaining the same level of service and at the same time asking for more money if you don't make the difficult decisions? Contained in these announcements that I received yesterday was exactly that sentiment from the province, that if you want to justify a need for further funding in the days and the months ahead, you're going to have to demonstrate to us, and that will be Ms. Evans' work as she submits these forms to the province, you're going to have to demonstrate what are the decisions that you've made historically in the past several months to show us that you've been trying to be as fiscally responsible as you can be, as you're asking us for more money to help you with your pressures. So to your example of transit, it's a good example to use. We've received this extra money. Does it mean you go back to a full service level? That will be a decision that we have to make in the days and the months ahead. But when the ridership numbers are still as low as they are, there's obviously some decisions that will have to be made.
You talk about demonstrating fiscal responsibility. How does that going ahead with the turf facility fit in with that?
Well, I've talked very publicly about the impact that has on the position of the city. That's one more, and it's minimal, as we've demonstrated, and as a capital project, that will fit into our capital budget of 2020, 2021, right? You're going to spend capital on something. We've made a decision to spend it on the turf facility as one of the things that we'll spend it on.
In terms of the $6 million for operating, do you have any specifics as to where that will go? Does that just go, straight into city coffers to alleviate budget pressures, or are there specific?
So this money, Ryan, the first money that we've received, my reading of the letter that we received is this is yours. That God bless, you can have it. You use it as you see need. There's also language in there from the minister that says it's his expectation that the money we're receiving from the housing piece, the 6.1 million, would be sufficient for us to meet the operating pressure. But at the same time, as I've explained, there is capacity in there for us at some point, if we feel there's demonstrable need, that we can try and make the case that we would be eligible for more money.
So then, as a follow-up to Linda, then, will you be making recommendations to council in terms of how to best spend this money, and can you share with us, if so, what some of those recommendations may be?
Well, as the mayor mentioned, the funding for the non-transit costs will go to offset what we have incurred to date, which is a significant portion of that. We'll have, depending on the decisions made on what will reopen in the fall and throughout December, there may be very little that would be available to transfer into 2021 to offset those costs. So those decisions are still being made.
Is it too early to ask if fares might come down with this money? Sure.
Just like to echo the mayor's comments about what a fantastic announcement this is. We are still digesting it. What happens downstream remains to be seen. We just got the announcement yesterday. We will be making recommendations to council as early as August 24th, as the mayor has said. No decisions have been made by either administration or city council.
Is there any indication, we've talked about phase 2, about how the province will choose to divvy that up? Should we be expecting kind of a similar percentage of the total pie that we got? And also, how important is that those 12.7 million in avoided costs that council has already approved, given that the province wants to see that to being fiscally
We will have to make the case, Ryan, as I've mentioned, in terms of our ability to receive any future funding. That's the best answer I can give you right now. I'll repeat the answer. The minister on the housing piece, the municipal affairs piece, was clear. They have an expectation that the allocation that we've received today will be sufficient for us to meet our operating pressure that we have accumulated to this point, but he's certainly left the door open. This is difficult, as you can imagine, from the federal and provincial government's perspective to try and get it exactly right. And so I think it's appropriate that they've left the door open for municipalities to try and demonstrate some of the distinctions that may exist in their communities that might allow for a different need, a greater need that might have been contemplated in the formula that they've rolled out. The housing, that $6.1 million was allocated on a per household basis. I can appreciate it's difficult for them to decide on what funding formula will you use to allocate it out. As a first step, we're pleased with this. We're satisfied at this point, but as we get into this and do the work and dig a little deeper, we may feel that we can demonstrate a need for additional funding. So like all municipalities, we'll be looking at this closely. We're thankful for this first step, but it doesn't mean that the work is over.
Do you feel that 12.7 million in cost savings, though, that were identified in the last report, that it bodes well moving forward for your...
Sure. This is the point I'm trying... We have to be shown. I've said this publicly in council chambers, that we cannot be asking for assistance from federal and provincial governments on the one hand if we're not willing to make some of the obvious and difficult decisions on the other. We had to be shown to be demonstrating that we were willing to make some of those difficult choices, whether that is staff vacancies, whether that is the closure of some of the facilities, and transit decisions and the like. Okay, in advance? Okay, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, where are we at in terms of the transit money? Where are we at in terms of rider numbers and things like that since the fares have been reintroduced? Can you give us any sense of where
Norm, are you able to? Yeah.
I'm able to say that I cannot comment on that now. I don't have those data.
Okay, everybody good? Okay, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you coming. Thank you, Chief Collins, for being here. We appreciate it.
Stay informed and stay up to date. Hit subscribe, hit like, share this with a friend. Make sure you hit the little bell so you get notified the next time that we have a video up. Thanks for tuning in to Net News Ledger.